This story begins with a boy named Leopen who just received his stats, and they're, well, not great. All of his skills are at a paltry level 1, and he's got no fancy job titles, just like many of us struggling in this economy. But now let's shift back a bit to the Royal Pioneer Academy, a recently established institution in the Kingdom of League 8, had its purpose to foster pioneers. It was especially in the academy where only outstanding individuals were, because the rich and aristocrats enrolled every year, and supporters had high expectations for the academy too. Then the principal showed up and introduced himself as the first-generation principal Nekotoren and started the Ability Awakening ceremony. He stated that they would achieve amazing achievements that would earn them a lot of money. Just by then, Leopen, the first-year student of Class 20, felt that his life in the academy was about to begin. He was feeling that other freshmen were also skilled. He had faith in himself and decided to do his best. Suddenly, a man started the ceremony by introducing himself as a yes man and continued with the announcements. He told everyone to come up on stage when their name would be called and put their hands on the goddess statue so that their stats could appear on the crystal ball. When Leopen was wondering that his class was the last one to complete the ceremony, Vice interrupted him by saying that he couldn't wait to see the results and wondered what their status would be. Leopen said he was quite nervous as he was average in both sports and academics, and in the first place he only got into the ceremony because he was supported with his dexterity. But Vice told him that there was no way they wouldn't be able to make it and showed him the lucky charm made by Leopen for everyone after the victory. Suddenly, everyone joined them and started praising him for his crafts, as all the designs were the same, and stated that it suited all of them very much. Just then, Vice commented that if Leopen was in their class, there was no doubt they would be number 1. Leopen contemplated that even after they got into high school, they would be friends forever, and thought that if he was with his friends, he would definitely get through it, and Vice told him that they would be friends forever. Lastly, it was Class 20's turn, and the yes man announced Vice first. He went on the stage and touched the goddess statue, and his skills appeared. His profession was a sage, and his level was high, with 1000 HP and MP, as well as 100 in all other stats: life, persistence, strength, agility, focus, etc. By seeing that Vice was in a senior position, everyone got shocked and started saying that his skills were godly. The yes man and principal also stated it was marvelous, and that now they didn't have to worry about the money. Everyone was praising Vice, but he said it was too early to be surprised and told them he was not the only strong person in Class 20, and invited the person recommended by his amazing friends, Leopen. He called him a dexterous person and showed his necklace, which was a friendship symbol made by Leopen for all his classmates. He stated that with the necklace, their friendship would last forever. Leopen contemplated that his friends were with him and their friendship would never waver, and they would be forever friends. He touched the statue and his skills appeared, showing him as a jack of all trades, master of none. His HP and MP were 10, and his other stats showed no growth except for dexterity, which was 2000. Vice called his skills trashy and crushed the necklace with his feet, leaving Leopen shocked to see it. Then he started announcing to introduce the next strong person recommended by his amazing friends. Leopen tried to talk, but he got kicked out by Monson, and he understood that this was it.
Wait a second, I really fucking hate these kinds of friends who backstab. And you know, he deserves this.
Just then, the yes man started the announcement and said that it seemed like there was some trash mixed together with them, but that had passed out. He continued by saying that the starting kit for each profession had been provided, so they were going to look at the ranking of each class. But Vice chided in and asked him to hold on, as he had a suggestion before the ranking. He told him that Class 20 wanted to have a class trial to exile a student. A class trial of exile was a political system where the student who received the most votes within the class would get exiled, and the exiled student would get transferred to a special training class. Vice was trying to raise his class rankings by getting rid of Leopen, as he thought it was important to get rid of trash earlier. Also, it was the first time someone was using it during the school ceremony. Then the voting started, and it was decided within the first round that Leopen had been transferred to the special training class. When they were done with this, the rankings were announced and appeared on the board. The first year Class 11 was on top, and Class 2 with Goddess Reincarnation Miss Monaka was in second place, while Class 20 was in the 5th place. Vice got frustrated and started wondering how they still got 5th place after getting rid of the huge trash, because of the other smaller trash's abilities being too low. And just with that, the yes man added that he had good news, that in honor of the holy debut of Miss Monaka, the prominent saint family had announced that the first student who received Miss Monaka's first healing would get a reward of 10 million yen. Everyone got shocked and found out they would make a huge difference between classes just by getting that reward. Vice felt relaxed and thought that the reward was definitely for him, and decided that he would get both the money and the woman. Leopen also heard the statement and felt that it didn't mean anything to him. Just then, a girl came to him and asked if he remembered her and introduced herself as Monaco. She told him they were in the same class in elementary school. Leopold got surprised and asked if somehow she was that crybaby Monaka. She said that she was no longer a crybaby, and in return, he told her that now he could see that she wasn't a crybaby and she had grown up to be a better person. Monaka felt happy and asked him to look after her as they didn't go to the same middle school, but now they were in the same high school together. Suddenly, she saw that his cheek was not all right, so she asked him, but Leopold told her that he always had slight injuries like that if she remembers. She nodded yes and thought that he always protected her. She told him that she wanted to treat his injury and asked him to stay still. She touched his cheek and started healing. Just a few seconds later, Leopold was amazed that it had turned to normal and seemed happy. Monaka asked him how her first healing was, but soon they felt everyone turned quiet so suddenly. Everyone got shocked as for the Monaka, whom they admired so much, had given her first healing to Leopold, who they considered garbage. Vice got frustrated that why would she heal someone like Leopold, and others in the group started asking him why they would exile him so early, as if he was still in the class. They would have already gotten 10 million yen. They asked Vice to take responsibility and canceled the exile. Vice asked them to shut up as they also agreed to the exile and told them that now they couldn't cancel the exile as it had already been decided. Suddenly, two girls appeared in front of Monaka, named Miss Onsuko and Miss Shinakubo. Onsuko started to tell Monaka that his saint's first healing was very important and is said to contain blessings. She asked Monaka why she had given it to the horsebone-looking person. Shinakubo chided and said it was true, as there were many people out there who were willing to give her a treasure full of money just to get her first healing. She stated the situation was extremely ridiculous. Giving it to someone who looked like flavorless horsebone was absolutely absurd. Monaka stopped both of them and told them that he was not a horsebone, but for her, he was a white horse. Both the girls took her away from Leopold and asked her to be careful in the future. Yes Man hid the slip and told everyone that Monaka's reward was just an example. He also said that daily lives in the academy were broadcasted live and asked them to behave in a dignified manner. The principal interrupted him and took the mic and told everyone that all he wanted was a gold circle. A student who could continue to earn money was an excellent student, and a student who couldn't earn money was a failure. If someone was like that, he would step on him without any mercy and ask them to prepare themselves. He gave the mic to Yes Man, and he told everyone that after the ceremony, they had a buffet party with the capital's finest food. But obviously, they didn't have the food for the special training class and asked Leopold to leave immediately. Leopold left the ceremony immediately and found out that, just like the rumors, the academy was surrounded by nothing. In the Pioneer Academy, the students began their independent life after the entrance ceremony. There were no dorms or school food, and from now on, they would have to work with their classmates or even other classmates in order to survive. Yet he was alone there. Then he started wondering why he didn't have any occupation and somehow only his dexterity had high stat points that he didn't understand at all. He started reading his main skill, which was Jack of all trades, dexterous body, dexterous growth, dexterous career, and got to know that he hadn't learned this in middle school. He decided to check some stuff by exchanging dexterity for life and noticed that there was a change in HP, which became 1010. After all, he decided to try it one more time and again noticed that there was a change in stats and felt amazing. Suddenly, he heard someone's voice like they ate a lot, but it seemed that no one was around. But he also heard that someone was saying that look over there was a renowned trash. Since they were full, they decided to play a game as a light exercise. The one who made him scared by the bow would win. Leopold couldn't understand where the voices were coming from. A boy shot an arrow towards him, but suddenly he noticed that and stopped and held the arrow with his hands. The boys watching through a telescope were shocked at how he caught the arrow with his hands, as he was not a martial arts master or something. This made Leopold furious, and he threw the arrow back to the boys as payback. The arrow hit the wall behind the boys, and the boys got scared, wondering how he threw the arrow back unless he had bows and arrow skills from such a long distance. Then he felt his power and thanked upgrading his 5 senses. His vision and hearing got sharper, and he was thankful for upgrading his muscle strength. He could throw the arrow farther than with a bow. He also thanked for upgrading his agility. His movement got sharper, and also he thanked for upgrading his focus. He was able to hit a target without a millimeter off the mark. He felt like his body wasn't his body anymore, but it felt like his finger sensation got weaker. But he knew it would be back if he got his dexterity still up. He felt amazing, as with his skill he could do anything. Now he was curious about other skills and was confused while choosing which one he should choose. But just then, he heard a boy's voice saying to start building a village by sourcing the materials, as if they didn't finish building their house before night, they would have to sleep with nature. Then he understood that living there was his first priority. So he chose his first occupation as a ranger, and he also got a passive skill that granted benefits just by possessing it, even if he didn't use it. So he decided to make a weapon and thought that a knife and an axe should be enough. He started looking for a stone which was strong and sharp enough to crack things open and guessed that size and shape should be taken into account as well. The boys mocked him by saying that what the garbage was doing there was like looking for a stone, but he ignored them by saying do whatever they wanted. Just then, he found the stone and started rubbing it until it became a knife, and it seemed like it was cut perfectly. Then he tied another wood with the stone, and his stone axe was completed. Then he noticed that he hadn't done much though, what his handiness went up by 100, and he thought that all the time status leveled up by 5 at most, but he was pretty sure that this would come in handy during survival. Then he changed his occupation from ranger to appraiser and decided to see how much that axe was worth. He felt that it was a number of times better even though it was a stone axe. The other boys around him were making fun of him for being excited over a stone axe and said that he probably wouldn't pee after seeing a fire being lit up. But Leapin decided not to keep getting picked on by them and changed his occupation from appraiser to lumberjack. The other boys were making fun of him as he was going to cut a tree as big as that with a stone axe. But he used his occupational skill and cut down the tree with a single swing. Everyone got shocked that how he logged down the tree when logging a slim tree was hard even for them. After that, Leapin changed his occupation again to wood planks so it became easier to move, but he was disrupted by other boys who were saying that that tree wasn't good for him and they would use it better. They asked him to get out of there, but Leapin advised them to stop as supporters were watching too. But the boys replied that hurting a mere bug from the special training class wouldn't lower his reputation and they would be happy to see it. But Leapin explained to them that's not what he meant. He just thought that the guys didn't want to feel embarrassed in front of supporters just after the entrance ceremony. The other boys got furious, and they started running towards him to beat him up, saying that why would the Ignite lose against someone who had no occupation? Then suddenly Leapin changed his occupation to axe battler and used weapon building and became a professional axe user. The other boys couldn't understand what just happened there, and they lost the battle to Leapin. They started talking about their classes, but Leapin told them that he didn't care. At last, after losing the battle to Leapin, they said sorry and ran away. He noticed that he just leveled up and got a new occupation again. He felt that he got the right occupation at the right time and decided to make a house. All right, since his occupation had changed to a carpenter, he started building a house. But he suddenly noticed that the amount of wood he collected wasn't enough, so he made a cart out of gis, which could carry 5 times more weight than an average cart. He heard that a girl was asking for more wood and also learned that every class had a designated area. He started finding his area but couldn't find it until he was sure that his 5 senses and vision had increased. Then he saw a garbage disposal for a special training class board in the forest. His designated area was far from the student residency. Now, even though he had been crafting items since he was young, building a house was still foreign to him. But he activated his build skill, as he was a jack of all trades and could do anything. It was fascinating for him as he was able to build a wagon and a stone axe. He had cut down lots of trees and was now building his own house. He even fought with 3 warriors, yet he didn't feel a single ounce of fatigue. He guessed that he was just kind of invincible when his endurance stat reached 200. After all, he successfully made a house and he felt that it was pretty good for the first time. It was a 2-story house made from high-quality wood named after gis due to multiple bonuses, making it resistant to earthquakes, fire, and corrosion. While he was praising his house, Monaka came and admired his home. She asked him if he made that house, and he replied that the house was made by him. This surprised Monaka as it wasn't even past noon, and she told him that the fact he was able to build an amazing house before afternoon was truly incredible. Then he asked her if she liked it that much and if she wanted him to build a house for her. She asked her it was okay for him, and he replied, of course, and asked her to wait for a bit so he could gather all the necessary materials. Meanwhile, in the Royal Pioneer Academy student's principal's office, both the principal and his yes man were frustrated and couldn't believe that Leapin was Monika's childhood friend. If that continued, their plans to have one of the students use the prize money, which would end up in their pockets, would no longer be necessary. Just then, the principal asked the vice principal if he had prepared the next prizes. The vice principal said yes and showed 2 prizes, one for building a good house and the other for being the first to level up. The principal realized that students started building their houses after all. Those prizes looked like prizes that would appear sooner or later, and they thought that with those 2 prizes, 20 million would be in their pockets. On the other side, Monaka and Leapin were talking while walking next to each other. Then they reached her designated area, and a lot of people were there. A building competition was happening for Monaka. Netsuke was saying that everyone was eager to provide for Monaka's house or even offer their own houses to her. However, Monaka was the upcoming great saint, and Shinakui was saying that they would judge whether other houses were worthy. Monaka tried to stop them, but Leapin told her to let them do what they were doing as it would make it easier for him to build a house. Just there, Monson motivated his team by asking them to showcase the power of the manufacturing team. If Monica took a liking to the house they built, their life in the academy would go smoothly. After all that, Leopold decided to start building the house and Monica wished him luck. The other boys saw him and started making fun of him by saying that it seemed like Trash was trying to participate in the competition too. They said he had no occupation and asked Monica not to look after him, just because he was her childhood friend. But Leopold told her to ignore them and switched his occupation to carpenter. While others were deciding what house to build for Monica, Leopold had already started making a house and even reached the second story of the house. The boys got shocked and frustrated at how he alone had built such an extravagant thing. Shinobuko described it as a skill that should be feared. As for them, that was impossible even for people like them who wielded the skills. At last, Leopold completed a two-story house, made up of high-quality kinoti. Due to various bonuses, it was resistant to earthquakes, fire, and corrosion. The house also had a pleasant scent so that the owner could fully enjoy the relaxing effect of the house. He asked Monica if the house was perfect for her, and told her that while searching for materials for the house, he came across the high-quality wood, kinohi. She thanked him for building such an amazing house for her and told him that she was so happy and couldn't have imagined receiving such a gift. Leopold felt glad after seeing that she was satisfied with the house. Then Monica saw dirt on his face and moved to wipe it immediately, but he stopped her and told her that if she came closer, she'd smell like sweat too. But she interrupted him by saying that sweat should be the pride of the carpenters and told him that she would happily embrace his scent anyway, because when they were little, they always used to and started leaning on him. But suddenly she asked for forgiveness for doing such a rude thing, but Leopold couldn't understand the matter. Soon Vice came there and saw the house and asked if Leopold had built it. He couldn't believe it and was surprised that if a person with no occupation could really build such a good house, then why would someone like himself, who holds a high-class occupation of a sage, lay out a whole house that wasn't much good? Everyone ran towards him and told him that they did exactly as they were told, but their houses were so different from Leopold's house. They said it was a bad idea to exile him. But Vice told everyone that he was a sage and no matter what, his decisions were always right. He explained that the reason why the cabin looked like trash was because the guys built it. Everyone started scolding him as the worst, and they started fighting with him. Leopold noticed them and started looking at other houses which were so weak that even small earthquakes could break them. Then suddenly a boy was coming towards him, asking him what tricks he had used to build that house and pushed him against the weak house. The house cracked along with the other houses, and the people there got frustrated and sad after seeing their houses break. After hearing the voices outside of the house, Monica came out and asked Leopold to join her, as she was just about to show her classmates the house that he built. Leopold thought to leave others alone for a while and got ready to join her. Then she asked everyone to look at the entrance, as the door could be opened from both sides, which made it a lot easier to enter and exit. She introduced him as an amazing person to everyone. Netsuke told Leopold that at first she couldn't believe that he was the one who built the house, as she assumed that he would build something like a doghouse straight out of hell. But Monica chimed in by saying that he built a house that was big enough for all 10 of her classmates to live in. Then Leopold explained that he made the house that way so that it would be safer for Monica, along with all the other girls, as their escorts felt the same. One Sue commented that she had never seen someone so considerate, and he asked whether it was a compliment. Then she told him that she would view him differently from now on, but warned him not to get ahead of himself because of that. It was more like going from a horse bone to an actual horse, and Shinakubo pointed him out as a pack horse. They thanked him for that day and threw him out by stating that the house was Monica's from now on. They asked him not to be in touch with Monica from then on and shut the door. They felt overwhelmed by the smell, but were also frustrated that the house was made by Leopold, although it was soothing for them. Then the principal and his yes-man reached there and saw the two-story house. They couldn't believe that it was built so well considering the tools and materials available in the situation. They also couldn't comprehend why the other houses were destroyed there. They stated that the person who built that house must have been the embodiment of a golden egg. Then they both went inside the house and got to know that it was a first-year Class 2's house. They asked Monica if it was gifted by one of the boys. Monica answered that the one person who she admired the most built that house for her and told them the house was made by Leopold. This blew the principal and his yes-man's minds, and they got totally frustrated. They ventured out of there by saying that they just remembered some urgent matters to attend to and asked them to forget everything that just happened there. They got irritated as they genuinely thought of him as one of the trash in the forest. Suddenly, they saw another house there which was perfectly built and was sparkling with its beauty. They got excited and relieved that now they could hand over the prize and pointed to the house as the light that indicated a level up. They started running towards the boy who built that house but were astonished when they found out that the boy was none other than Leopold. Just then, Leopen leveled up again, and he noticed and asked them why they were looking frustrated. But the principal and Yes Man ran away from there, and he started looking at the stats.